Okay, Gracie, let me just digest this. Are you saying if a Filipina can prove to the court that her partner, whether it be a foreigner or a Filipino, prohibits her from getting a job, that guy can end up in jail?
Yes, P. If it's proven that he committed economic abuse on the on the Filipina, he can be penalized by imprisonment.
Yikes. That's the RA 9262, the
Violence against women and their children. Yeah, Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004.
And under that, there's that economic abuse. If you say, nope, you're not allowed to work.
Yes, preventing the victim from engaging in any legitimate profession, occupation, business, or activity. So you cannot just prevent your partner from engaging into a lawful profession and make her dependent on you, and then suddenly you withdraw such support, because otherwise you'll be liable under this provision.
I know that my viewers are gonna be scared to death after hearing that they might go to jail from preventing their Filipina partner from working. So if I were the guy, if I were the foreigner, how can I protect myself ironclad to avoid being accused of economic abuse and the Filipina can use this against me?
It's very important to have evidence to present in court should you need one to protect yourself or to defend yourself. People who can witness later on, should you need a witness to testify that she was not prevented to work, but it was her intention, it was her plan not to work.
Okay, just hearing that, it's all about the evidence and witnesses. And obviously, the Filipina has a big family. What if she can just tell her mom, her brothers, her relatives, everybody in the barangay to corroborate the story, supporting her claims?
Let's say if you saw some job street ad of a certain work for her, you send it to her Facebook, and then she replied to you, no, I don't like to work, I don't know. So from there, from that kind of conversation alone, it shows that you're not preventing her to work. It's her intention not to work.
Plus, again, she has to prove it that you literally prohibited her from working. Obviously, we have a process to do here. I know guys are now thinking, like, if it's possible to be used against them, yeah, they have to protect themselves. So I know that this is an extreme scenario, Gracie, but what if a Filipina is just diabolical and she wants to cause problems with this foreigner to extort money, let's say, and she claims that, oh, he prohibits me from working, and she'll launch a massive lawsuit against the foreigner. And since this is a criminal case, does that mean that the foreigner is pinned down here in the Philippines until the resolution of the case? What would happen?
If there is a whole departure order from the court, then yes, that could hold the foreigner here. However, let it be noted that cases doesn't automatically go to court. It goes to several processes, right? First, you have to file a complaint. The complaint will be studied by the prosecutor, who will determine whether there is probable cause. They will call for a preliminary investigation just to determine facts of the case and, to really determine if there is indeed a probable cause. And it's only when the prosecutor has determined probable cause that the prosecutor will file the case in court, and it will be raffled which court it will be heard. And when the case gets heard in court, then the parties can, the complainant or the plaintiff can petition for a whole departure order. And under the law, it says here that court will expedite the process of issuance of whole departure order for cases prosecuted under this act. So it might go faster in court, but before it reached the court, the foreigner already has enough time to go outside the country. So,
okay, so that's the worst.
That's the worst. If the foreigner will really push through with this case and really wants to stay in the Philippines, that's the risk. That's the risk of being held here once the case goes to court and the court has issued the whole departure order. But prior to that going to court, will probably the foreigner will have 6 months or even more than that. So he's
I think
free
he's
to go,
gone
and
already.
he's gone by then. Yeah, usually when cases like this, if you can go outside the country, go fly. That's what usually happens to foreigners.
How would the foreigner know that he is in trouble, that the ex-girlfriend filed a case and he might be stuck here in the Philippines and not be able to get out of the country?
Well, what usually happens when a case is being filed against a person, that person will be summoned by the prosecution or by the prosecutor's office, be provided with a copy of the complaint, and will be called for a preliminary investigation, so that the foreigner will be duly notified of an existing complaint filed against him.
So he can basically escape the Philippines once he gets served. So that's basically it.
Exactly. If he doesn't want to undergo those tedious process and aggravation in even just the prosecution level, yeah, that might be the wise decision for him.
So he can just dodge the bullet and then just sayonara.
Well, if he sees that that's the easiest and more convenient path compared to engaging into the court proceedings and proving his case, he might be better going away out of the country.
Wow. So,
Correct.
okay. On our related subject, Gracey, we've talked about how it's a bad idea to get involved with a Filipina who's still legally married, right? So not only are annulments expensive and time consuming, but the woman's ex-husband can cause problems. I got a question recently from one of my subscribers, a guy who wants to live with his Filipina girlfriend. So the girlfriend is still married, right? And the estranged husband is missing in action for 8 years now. So they haven't communicated for 8 years. So the foreigner offered to get the annulment, but the woman's ex-husband doesn't want to sign the annulment papers. So he doesn't want to cooperate. What happens in the case of a contested annulment like that, Gracey?
In that case, what you've mentioned, if the ex doesn't want to cooperate, that's an uncontested annulment. The only evidence that the court will base its decision will be the evidence presented by the petitioner, who is the wife. If what you mean is a contested annulment, meaning if the ex would also go to court, file his answer to the complaint, that's what you call a contested annulment. So just like in any other litigious cases, the person invoking the ground must have sufficient evidence to prove the grounds of his or her case. Annulment cannot be agreed by both parties. It has to be based on ground invoked by the petitioner. So that's what I usually suggest to my clients every time we discuss about annulment, because they wanted to have an agreement with the other party. Yeah, you can have an agreement with the other party. Just make sure that a prosecutor handling your case will not be aware of it. Because if the court finds out, the prosecutor finds out, sorry, your case will automatically be dismissed.
I know that having a relationship with a married woman is already iffy. It's a sticky situation. And the ex-husband might extort money from the present partner of the wife.
The scenarios that usually ex-husband would use to extort money from a foreigner is adultery. If there is a case for adultery, that's the usual reason why an ex-husband would extort a foreigner. Because, foreigner would be afraid of being criminally charged for adultery because there's imprisonment on that one, right? So foreigner would be afraid not to give money to the ex and face the consequences of their action. But let it be noted that there are things that you can do in order to avoid these things. other than what P have mentioned, that not to, in the first place, if you can avoid getting into a relationship with a married woman, you do that. But if you can't avoid that situation because you fell in love with this girl and so on and so forth, then there are things that you can do actually to avoid repercussion of your relationship. In order to avoid adultery, there has to be consent of the ex-partner. So if the ex-partner is able to provide you the consent that you need in your relationship, he can run after you later on for adultery. He might be able to charge you for adultery, but whether or not it will prosper in court, that's a different thing. Because of the presence of that consent, you can avoid prosecution.
Yeah, especially if they're in good terms, like the estranged husband and the Filipina. If say, okay,
Yeah,
I'll
you
give you
can.
consent
Yeah,
to do that. Just recently, a foreigner was caught with his mistress, and
I
then
saw that
it
one in the news.
happened. Yeah, it happened just this week. They are in jail, both of them, the foreigner
Yeah,
and the mistress.
it's actually concubinage on their part
Yeah,
because it's the wife of the foreigner who caught them with his mistress. So in the act, so they automatically got got jail time before a case be filed, and they free again on bail. So yeah.
yeah. So for the guy cheating, a married guy, it's concubinage, but for the other one, it's the adultery.
Actually, the parameters for concubinage and adultery is quite different. For concubinage, you have to be caught in the act, or some scenarios that are quite stringent to prove. But for adultery, it's actually very easy to prove because the fact that you're together and you can prove that you had sexual intercourse, or you've seen dating in public. So yeah, it's quite, in that case, it's really quite unfair for women and men, because for women to be charged of adultery, aside from the penalty being really harsh compared to concubinage, the burden of proof is also lighter compared to concubinage. You can easily be proven for adultery, but for concubinage, more difficult to secure.
So meaning for a guy, just don't get caught in the act. What if the woman, the wife, caught her husband doing another woman, like they're doing it, caught in the act? Can the husband and the mistress go to jail right away?
Remember, we can do citizens arrest. So if they're caught in flagrante delicto, then the wife can invoke citizens arrest towards her husband. But again, whether or not it will prosper in court, that's a different thing, okay? If the act done by the husband having sexual intercourse with another woman is done privately, and it was this sneaky wife or curious wife following the husband and then went into that secret place of the husband, then yeah, he might get in he might he might be charged for concubinage, but convicted of concubinage might not be, because it's a different standard of proof for men and for women. So even if the man is already caught in the act of having sexual intercourse, but then it's done in a private area, and it's different. It's absurd, but it's how it is. Yeah, after doing the citizen's arrest, the woman can call for cops, and as soon as the cops goes there, yeah, the woman can say, "Look, they're still here. You have to arrest them because I just did the citizen's arrest for them," etc. Those kinds of scenarios happen. So that's probably what happened to the recent incident. I don't know the complete case on that one, but it's possible that that thing happened.
Okay, so let's talk about going to jail. How fast can he be arrested? I'm not saying about being convicted or whatever, but being arrested. How fast can he be arrested?
Well, if the woman would execute or do a citizen's arrest and calls the police thereafter, and the police within 5 minutes goes there, arrives there, and the husband and the mistress are still there, yeah, automatically they can be arrested that fast.
Okay, so meaning to say, Gracie, that he can be apprehended even before he can finish zipping his fly? He can go to jail?
Yeah, of course. They'll be given time to make themselves presentable, right? So before they get driven to the police station. Yeah.
So guys, don't get caught, or better yet, just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Gracie, let's talk about the divorce legislation, because we're the only country in the world, except for the Vatican, that has no divorce. So what's up with that? Do you think we will be seeing any divorce law passed in our lifetime?
I really can't tell, P, because there's nothing new on that one other than being a bill under a committee and Senate probably. It's still a bill and still under contemplation by, our legislators. So I'm not actually sure if it's gonna be passed within the term of the current senators right now or even current congressmen. So I cannot, but everybody is hoping it to be passed sooner rather than later. It would be way easier for those who have been separated for quite some time and couldn't file an annulment, because how tedious and how expensive annulment are, right? It would be easier for them to move on with their lives if they file divorce.
Is it gonna be the same thing as the Western style divorce? Like, okay, I don't want it anymore, or is it stricter?
I don't think a no fault divorce is being suggested. It's not like you can just file a divorce because you don't feel to be with each other anymore. No, I don't think that's contemplated under the bill, because I don't even think that would be acceptable to the Filipinos.
Another question, Gracie. This is from one of my viewers. So he's not married to the mother of his child, who is a Filipina, right? So here in the Philippines, I know that we have a child support law, but it's not really implemented here, because in the United States or in other Western countries, you can go to jail for not paying child support. But here in the Philippines, it's not really implemented. And he's afraid that he's being extorted because she's asking for too much, because he's a foreigner. A lot of my viewers are now very worried about this, because let's say they have a child with a Filipina, and then since they are foreigners, and they might think, oh, they just want to extort more money from me, because me as a foreigner, they think I have deep pockets, and then they'd ask for more money. So is there a way, like a basic computation for, like, what is the right child support so that they can avoid being extorted just because they're foreigners?
Well, if a case for child support goes to court, what will happen is the one who is filing for child support will have to prove the amount and account for that amount that the child needs in order to provide for the maintenance of the child, right? So the court will check on those amounts whether it's reasonable, and will also consider the capacity of the father. It's not because the foreigner earns more than the usual Filipino. That's not going to be a parameter in determining child support, because the court will also look into the cost of living of the child. Let's say if the woman is asking for 10,000 for clothes, or 10,000 pesos worth of toys, that's not a reasonable amount, and the court will definitely not grant that amount, even if how wealthy the foreigner is. The amount being asked has to be reasonable within the bounds of how the child will be living comfortably. There is no specific amount that is contemplated under our laws or under the decision of the court. It will all based on different circumstances the court will consider.
Okay, Gracie, as a bonus question, I wanted to ask you if you've heard of any legislation about legalized medical marijuana, and I want to ask your opinion about it.
Okay, well, right now it's still just like the divorce law. It's still a bill legalizing medical marijuana. So I don't know when it's gonna pass, or if it's gonna pass this time, because there's been a lot of bills being suggested or lobbied in the past for legalizing the medical marijuana. In my own opinion, I'm totally okay with medical marijuana as long as there's clear parameters for setting it, or how to acquire marijuana. I'm not into legalizing recreational marijuana because I know there would be side effects of it if it gets if the public can easily secure it, especially the young ones, who are quite experimental and they might try this one. Medical marijuana, no problem, but for recreational or making it available freely to the public, that's still, I'm not convinced to it yet.
I bet you'd be very funny if you're high. You'd be spacey Gracey.
I don't know. I haven't done it yet. Maybe I'll try it. I'll try it in Canada. It's legal there.
Alrighty. Well, Gracey, we've talked a lot today. You've given us a lot to think about. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, for clearing things up. Thank you.
You're welcome, P. Always fun to discuss things with you.
Yep. And for you guys out there, you know the drill. I'll be back in 3 more days with something surprising. So stay tuned. That's it for today. Bye. So that was quite an eye-opener. And as you can see, there's a lot to think about when deciding to live with a Filipina. Fortunately, if you plan ahead, you can protect yourself and your assets. So let's go over what we heard today. First, don't panic about inviting your girlfriend to live with you. A Filipina can't just waltz into your life and take half your stuff. It takes 5 years to be considered a common law marriage. And even then, it doesn't give a Filipina the rights of a legal union. The most she can possibly claim is 50% of the assets that were purchased while together. And that's only if she can prove in court that she deserves anything at all. She has no claim to your bank account, no claim to your pension, and anything acquired before you live together is totally off the table. To protect yourself even further, make your big purchases beforehand, like buying a condo or an expensive vehicle, and make sure it's your name on the title. If you keep your receipts for any appliances you buy, like the refrigerator or the big screen TV, then there really won't be much she can go after. The thing that I found shocking was the possibility of having your ex-girlfriend coming after you under the economic abuse law, claiming that you kept her from working. This is apparently a criminal case that can result in jail time. So I'd make every possible effort to document the fact that you encourage her to work if she wants to. That doesn't mean she must work, just that you don't coerce her not to. Gracey said that in order to be prosecuted, the woman has to prove in court that you kept her from finding employment, using any evidence she has, including witness testimony. Now, I know the first thing that came across your mind was a courtroom full of the Filipina's friends and neighbors, all swearing they heard you demand she quit work because you take care of her. And quite honestly, I don't blame you. If it were me, I'd either date a woman who had a job, or I'd be making videos of myself handing her the want ads every few months. Although this kind of case is extremely rare, I know you guys want to protect yourselves, and that's what we're here to help you with. We also talked about child support, divorce legislation, and adultery laws. And if you have any further questions on those issues, as well as anything we didn't cover, you can always schedule a consultation with Gracey. Well, I hope we shed a little light on some of the misconceptions regarding cohabitation law. So now you can open your door and let your Filipina in. As long as she has a job. Till next time, folks. If you think about it, I'm kind of like an astronaut, taking you places no man has gone before by giving you the best inside scoop about life in the Philippines. I know that learning an alien culture can be a real asteroid in Uranus, but my info will put you light years ahead of the competition. And if you follow my advice, you definitely won't have a failure to launch after you splash down here. All I ask for my technical expertise is that you give a thumbs up on this video, share it with friends, and hit the notification bell so you're in time to watch the next launch. And I'd be over the moon if you checked out my Patreon page for bonus features and exclusive content. While waiting to blast off, why not check out some of my other videos too? So, Want to join me for a little horizontal docking maneuver in 0G? It's out of this world. Is that a rocket in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?